Welcome, pre-algebra students, to lesson 103. We're going to talk about the distributive property for a few moments. The notation here with a constant or a whole number outside of a parenthesis tells us to multiply what is inside the parenthesis. So there are multiple ways that we can do this. The first way, the way that you are used to, is by taking care of any operations that are inside the parenthesis first and then multiplying by what is on the outside. And we see that by this illustration of 2 plus 3 being 5 and 4 times 5 being 20. We can get to that same number and prove the distributive property true by multiplying each of those numbers individually and then adding. So if I were to do this again and say 4 times 2 plus 3, and I'm going to create like a little rainbow, and I'm going to say 4 times 2 is 8. Bring down my operation, and then do my multiplication again. 4 times 3 is 12. Well, when I add 8 and 12 together, I get the same answer. So 20 equals, 20. So that proves that I can either perform the operations inside and then multiply to get the same answer, or I can multiply first and then perform the operation and get the same answer. So that works. So let's try that and see if it works for everything. What if I were to do, let's try another problem. What if I were to do some subtraction? So let's try 3 times 5 minus 2, right? I'm going to write it again over here, 3 times 5 minus 2. Let's try it again. So 5 minus 2 is 3, right? So 3 times 3 would be 9, okay? 3 times 5 is going to be 15, and I'm going to bring down the operation of subtraction, and 3 times 2 is 6. 15 minus 6 is 9. So it works for addition and it works for subtraction too. So let me introduce this rule to you. This is called the distributive property. And you're going to want to take this down in your notes because we will be using this property from now until the end of Algebra 3, should you make it that long. So let's look at the rule. We have A times B plus C is equal to AB plus AC. And that just means A times B, A times C here. A times B, and then A times C. And that is the distributive property. Or the same is true if it's behind it. So you could say B plus C times A is equal to BA plus CA. And it doesn't matter because we know that the commutative property tells us that multiplication of factors can happen in any order. It's the same thing here. They're just in reverse order. So putting it in the front or the back does not change the value of the multiplication. And in many instances, when I rewrite a problem, I will move the factor that's behind the parenthesis to the front just because it's easier for my brain to see the rainbow coming from the front number as opposed to coming from the back. So that's just something that I like to do. Either one of those, though, means the exact same thing. So don't let it throw you for a loop when you see the factor that's doing the multiplying behind the parenthesis grouping. All right, so let's jump into a practice problem. All right, let's just do it right down here. I'm going to do 103.1. Yes, this is lesson 103. We're going to use the distributive property to multiply this. And we have some variables in here. And we know how to multiply variables. So here is our distribution problem that we have. So we're going to say 4 times x, that's 4x. Bring down the operation. 4 times 2y, so we multiply the coefficients and the constant together. So that's going to be 8y because 4 times 2 is 8. And then we're going to multiply that by y. That is the same thing as if we had said 4 times 2 times y. That is the exact same thing here because we know this is 2 times y. So we multiply like terms together, right? So that's what that is. And now we do the last term, 4 times negative 8. We brought down our operation of the minus sign. 4 times 8 is 32. So this is a solution to this problem. It's really not that hard. The math is very straightforward for us. We know 4 times x is just 4x. And we know when we have a variable and a constant or a coefficient that we just multiply the whole numbers times each other and put the variable next to it because it's still being multiplied. We just don't know what that number is yet. Let's try another one. Let's do 103.2. And here is that problem. So we have 3x times y minus 2 plus 2x. So first we start off by seeing we have a 3 and an x. We have a constant or a coefficient and a variable that we're multiplying. So let's start with the very first term, 3x times y. So 3x times y just looks like 3xy. So we bring down the operation here, and now we multiply times the second term. 3 times 2 is 6, and we have to bring down the variable, 6x. Bring down the other operation, which is a plus sign, and now we multiply 3x times 2x. So the x's, x1 times x1, we know we add the 1 and the 1 together. So we have 2 x's, right? So that literally is 3 times x times 2 times x. So these two would be 3 times 2, which would be 6. And then we have 2 x's. We add 1 plus 1. That gives us x squared. So that's what we put here, 6x squared. And that's how we would solve the second problem. And that is all we have for lesson 103. I will see you in lesson 104. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me.